How's it going, guys? Topic for today's video. A lot of people have been asking me over the past probably year or so, what are the differences that I notice eating a starch-based vegan diet as opposed to a fruit-based vegan diet. So when I originally started my plant-based journey, my entire goal was to become a raw vegan, because being a raw vegan was like the most kind of like almost like elitist way of eating. It was the most pure, it was the most healthy. So when I first started out, that's what I wanted to do, and I found it very difficult to do so just because it was such a strange way of eating compared to how I was eating before. So trying to actually eat 100% fruit-based or 100% raw was extremely difficult and not something that was sustainable over the long term. I was constantly binging out on cooked foods, and I thought that I was essentially failing. And when I mean like binging on cooked foods, it was like having steamed white rice with like salt on top and other seasonings. And that for me was like when I was like really like cheating and failing. Now when I look back at that time, I see how kind of like ridiculous my mindset was around eating a healthy diet. It wasn't a very healthy mindset because I was so restrictive with the foods that I was eating. So essentially I ate a fruit-based vegan diet for over probably at least 3.5 years or so. I would say the biggest differences that I noticed from going from a fruit-based diet to a starch-based diet is just how simple it is. So a starch-based diet is so much easier to follow. There's a lot less things to have to worry about. So if you're always eating a lot of fruit, you always have to buy your fruit at a certain time in order to kind of like arrange or schedule the ripening so that you're always gonna have ripe fruit in order to eat. This means, you know, a lot of trips to the grocery store where you're going and just buying like bananas or mangoes or any other type of fruit, and then you're bringing those home, and then you have to kind of space it out so that you're always gonna have enough fruit to eat. I wouldn't say that that was like massively stressful, but over the years, obviously, you get a lot better at it. And now with eating a starch-based diet, that's something that you really don't have to worry about. If you're getting the majority of your calories from like potatoes and rice, you don't really have to worry about that. Potatoes, once you buy them from the store, you can eat them right away, and they do go bad over time, but the actual shelf life of the potatoes is much longer than, say, like bananas. The second main difference that I've noticed is, I would say, when I was eating a lot of fruit, is I kind of almost felt like my blood sugar was very kind of like wonky. So I had periods and times where I was very, like, I almost felt almost kind of like jittery because I was eating so many fruits and so many simple sugars that I would get like kind of like jittery. And it's not something that I've really talked about because I just kind of thought it was normal. But yeah, I would get really jittery, and comparatively to when I'm eating a lot of starch-based foods, since they're complex carbohydrates, they take a lot longer to break down in the body and a lot longer to digest. So for me, I feel a lot more like satiated and satisfied when I'm eating starches as opposed to a lot of fruit, because fruit goes through you like that. It's easily digested. The sugar and the glucose quickly go into the bloodstream. So one thing that I always notice is that I always felt like I was really hungry all the time when I was eating a lot of fruit. Now that I'm eating a starch-based diet, I don't really get those hunger cravings like I used to when I was eating a lot of fruit. Another thing that I've noticed is when I've been eating a starch-based diet and I've been keeping it low in fat and away from the junk food is the complexion of my skin. So when I was eating a lot of fruit, I don't think that my skin reacted very well to all the fruit and to all the sugar, especially when I was pouring like refined sugar into smoothies and stuff. There was times when my acne was even worse on a fruit-based vegan diet than when I was even eating a standard American diet. And I think this has something to do with the amount of like simple sugars and refined sugars that I was eating at the time. But now, since I've been eating a very low-fat starch-based diet, it seems to make my skin a lot more manageable. And right now I'm actually on day 2 of eating 100% low-fat, so no overts and no oils for at least 30 days to kind of see how that affects the complexion of my skin. And the last thing that I've noticed would definitely be the price. So the price of eating a starch-based diet, which is primarily potatoes, rice, beans, and corn, it's very, very cheap as opposed to eating a lot of fruit. Now it kind of depends, you know, what fruits are you basing your diet around, but even if you're eating primarily bananas and dates, a starch-based diet is still gonna be a lot cheaper. And just one other thing is that eating a fruit-based diet can definitely be a lot more convenient at times. So instead of actually having, you know, to cook rice and to cook a meal up, it is much easier sometimes to just blend some fruit up and have a smoothie to actually having to sit down and like cook a meal. So there are definitely some pros to eating a fruit-based diet, and I definitely think for very high performance athletes, it can definitely be a benefit to include a lot of fruit into your diet, just because it's such a clean source of fuel that, you know, digests very quickly and it's very light in the body. So I can definitely see like a benefit of eating a fruit-based diet, but I think just over the long term, for simplicity, for satiation, for feeling satisfied, for the price, I definitely think that a starch-based vegan diet is the best way to go. So if you're looking for some awesome starch-based recipes, definitely check out our website, rawtowhenever.com. And we have a great ebook called Fully Cooked, which is an entirely starch-based recipe book based on Dr. McDougall's starch solution. So definitely check those out. Awesome. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Peace.